attend tonight's meeting. And tonight's meeting is being recorded. So my name is Bea Chatfield, and I am the Parks Project Manager, Landscape Architect for this project, the William Flaherty Playground Park renovation. And this is our third meeting, and we're going to be having a fourth one after this. Usually our standard meeting process is 3 design meetings with the community. And this one, we have gotten a lot of feedback in support of a dog use at Flaherty Playground. And we've gotten enough feedback and enough support that we are coming back to the community so that we can have this conversation with you tonight. And I've gotten lots of emails and lots of suggestions and lots of recommendations. And so we're hopeful that tonight is going to be a constructive conversation. We encourage everybody to be mindful of your neighbors and the fact that everyone has opinions here that should be respected. Try to voice your opinion respectfully as well. I realize dog areas are limited in this city and people feel pretty strongly about having a new dog use. So again, just please be respectful. So I am going to, let's see, we'll flick to the next screen if we can. Zoom tips. We're going to ask everybody to remain muted until we get to the conversation section. We're going to have a short presentation showing the dog use and the previous design moves that we've made. And then once you sort of raise your hand, Christine, who is our wonderful moderator, she will allow you to unmute yourself and you can say your piece. You can also contribute via the chat. So we encourage any and all forms of participation. If we could go to the next screen. Tonight's agenda, we're going to do the project team introduction, the overview, the design presentation, then we're going to get to the listening and discussion, and then closing remarks and next steps. Next slide. So I am Bea Chatfield. There's all of my information right there. Christine Brandeo is also here tonight with the Parks Department. She is our outreach coordinator. We have Jade Cummings, who is here from the design team, and there are other members of the design team as well participating, but Kelly is not here tonight. And then Tiffany Caballero is also in the crowd tonight. So thank you all for your support. Here is the project overview. I'm going to pass this over to Jade, I think, right? No, we didn't go through this, sorry. Schedule, funding, apologies. So we had our first community meeting in January of 2022. And then that was where we sort of presented our initial site analysis and where we heard priorities from the community as to what they would like improved upon or what type of design they would like to see for the park. The second design meeting was held in May, where we showed 3 different options. And here we are with community meeting 3, where we've heard enough support for a dog use at the park that we are here to have this conversation tonight. Our goal is to have community meeting 4 occur in November. And that is where we will take the feedback we hear tonight, as well as the feedback that we get from a survey that we're going to be sharing tonight as well. We put all that in the hopper and we decide whether or not we're going to be doing a dog area at Flaherty Playground, and the final design will reflect that. Spring 2023 will be permitting and design development. We will start construction in the fall, and there's our budget there in red. And then spring 2024 is when the playground should be open. We could go on to the next slide. So I'm going to pass this over to Jade. I also can't remember if I already said this, but I want to emphasize if I did already say it. Tonight's goal is to have a conversation and to hear opinions and thoughts on this use in this playground. Data is important, but numbers don't drive everything, right? And so we're going to have a survey that we share after this meeting where we hope you'll contribute your ideas there as well. But our decision is going to be based on the numbers from the survey and the thoughts and feelings that we hear tonight. So thank you for participating, and I'm going to pass this over to Jade.
Thanks, Bea. Good evening, everyone. Again, we're going to keep the presentation brief. Many of you, if anyone attended the first or second community meeting, this first part is just a general overview, the existing condition summary. Our design team has been out on site. We've studied the neighborhood. We've looked at the context, walking distances, some adjacent uses. More site scale, we've evaluated the circulation, vehicular circulation, pedestrian circulation, again, understanding the residences, uses in the immediate area. We broke down our site analysis into open space, edges, and we really listened to the first community. We heard clearly how important the preserving the existing trees and the canopy was to the majority of participants. That said, we early on worked with a licensed arborist in addition to the city's tree warden to do a pretty comprehensive tree analysis to understand the existing conditions of each of the trees out on site. So this is a field survey that was completed in addition to a photo survey that we completed to make sure that every tree is documented and treated as the important, significant feature that it is. After our analysis, we developed 3 concepts that we presented during community meeting number 2, and that was held on May 19th of this year. And during that design meeting, we presented a concept. These are general concepts, but the general concepts were the treehouse, the waterfall, and the clubhouse. During that meeting, in addition to feedback that we received after the meeting, we found that there was an overwhelming majority that that preferred the treehouse concept. So that said, to follow what Bea said during her introduction, after the community meeting number 2, there was feedback from the community regarding interest in having a dog element incorporated into the project. So this evening, we're really discussing, this is the tree concept with the treehouse concept as discussed during the second meeting. And then the next diagram I will walk through, it's more of a technical diagram intended to outline the requirements for a dog element. And then we can open this up for discussion. So, okay, so essentially, just to give a little background, to have a dog element in a park, it's very important to understand that we have to have a 100-foot minimum offset from the abutters, and that is indicated by this dashed red line. So we cannot have a dog element anywhere within this shaded zone. Ideally, Boston Parks, for the safety of dogs and users, ideally they prefer to have 10,000 square feet. What this blue line is indicating, this is roughly 7,500 square feet. And through our studies, the dog run pretty much needs to be located in this area to preserve the 100-foot offset in addition to the existing topography. As many of you may know, there's slope in this area. There is slope along Cornwall Street and Brookside Avenue. And again, we're careful to maintain the existing the root zone of these existing trees. So that said, at the end of the day, this blue line is indicating generally where the dog element would be located, and not forgetting that this dog element would need to be enclosed, which as a character image is illustrated in the 2 images on the right. And we need to remember that we have to maintain our handicapped accessibility walkways around the perimeter of the dog area. So that said, again, we promised you a brief presentation so that we can really open this up for discussion.
Thank you, Jade. That's great. And I think it's going to be helpful if we keep this up as a slide during that conversation. So I also wanted to say that Boston Parks right now is at a point where we understand from lots of constituents that dog areas are important. And so we are trying to come up with ways of accommodating this. And there is a possibility in the future that shared use in a park may happen similar to other adjacent municipalities. I'm speaking about Brookline, I'll be frank here. You know, they have a program where they have a park area that from certain times of the day, dogs can use it off leash. And then, so right now, the Parks Department is not set up to do that. We do not have the personnel or the positions to monitor that. And if we're going to try something new, we want to do it well. We want to start off with as many boxes ticked off as possible instead of like, let's try it, cross our fingers, hope it goes well. So this is right now, we're in our capital process here for this park. And this is what the Parks Department is able and willing to offer. It's an enclosed dog area, which means there's going to be some kind of material for the dogs to run on, and you know, fencing and that kind of thing. So it's not about like, here's a baseball field that can sometimes be used for dogs. We are not set up for that right now. And so just so wanted to put that out there because I know that that has been part of the conversation. So I'm seeing hands raised and I'm going to step back and let people share their thoughts. Christine, if you want to start calling on people.
Renee, you can unmute yourself.
Hi there. Sorry, there's a lot going on here, lots of chat conversation as well. So just as B knows, but others on the phone may know, we're abutters. We live on Brookside Avenue on the, if you're facing Brookside, on the left of the park. So I think it's also important to mention, aside from being abutters, that we're the owners of 2 dogs. So we appreciate, you know, the need for places for dogs to run as well. I know that the conversation around needing dog runs in JP has been a long conversation, and I really appreciate that need. I think, however, that that this is not the right solution for that need. This is, you know, a definite problem, looking for a solution, and this seems like, I can understand why this seems like the right opportunity, but particularly when you see what this proposed space looks like, it just takes up every part of this park that is available for lots of different things. And obviously we heard a lot in the first couple of meetings, especially the first meeting, from kids who use this, and that is serious, like baseball space, the kickball space, whatever. It was the dancing space for a really wonderful event that happened last year. So again, I am in favor of dog runs. I just don't think that this is the solution to the problem. You know, there may be a shared opportunity. I know that you know, Brookline has an option, and I don't think that that is necessarily one for us right now. But okay, so anyway, just wanted to put that my opinions out there as both an abutter as well as a you know, dog owner who understands both sides of the issue. So thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Omer. Sorry, it's not letting me click on it. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Okay, thank you. My name is Omer Hecht. I live on Marmion Street. And thanks for the person who spoke before. I'm sorry I didn't catch the name, the abutter. Just to put this conversation in perspective, which I think is important, amongst other pursuits, I attend Jamaica Plain Neighborhood Council meetings where the topic of dog parks comes up often. And I think that the discussion and request for dog park in JP has been ongoing for years. As someone who regularly uses this park, I know that many people use this park as an off-leash dog park. Obviously, that's illegal. It's very dangerous. Sometimes people get hurt in this very park, including my own kid. I'm gonna say that this is definitely not a problem looking for a solution. This is not a solution looking for a problem. This is in fact a problem because Jamaica Plain has no off-leash dog spaces whatsoever. The people who use off-leash spaces, I'm saying illegally, but really that's not the word. It's like inappropriately maybe, do so in places where this interaction can't be regulated with a fence or any other way, and it's always a point of friction. Ultimately, this happens in this park, it happens in other places. And so there was a strong push to try and get DCR and other organizations to create a dedicated dog park in other places, but all of these fell through because an appropriate place was not found where the city and state agencies could agree to place it, not so much to do with abutters. In the other hand, I think we also have to be very careful from what sounds like some kind of NIMBY sentiments where, in fact, maybe we do need a dog park, but this is not the place, and so on. I think if we have the chance to do this and the city is willing to do this and there's facilities to do this in terms of the technical requirements that enable a fenced or off-leash dog area to be built, we should absolutely grab it with both hands. I'm in full support of this. I'm not a big dog fan, even though there's a dog in my household. I think this is a great idea that we should embrace because there are, someone said in the chat, and I think it's true, we have parks for every possible application within a 2-block radius, with the exception of an off-leash dog park. And this may be small, this may be not ideal, this may be not everything that we've hoped for in terms of a dog park, but it is a foot in the door in a dog park with an off-leash area that people can use legitimately without friction, without the risk of danger to other users, and so on. And yeah, this park will still be used by kids and it can be for everybody. I think this is a great thing. I'm in full support of this, as a neighbor in the immediate area. And I'm going to stop talking. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. I also just wanted to say there's a lot of chat going on, which is great. And I think for the most part, everyone's being pretty respectful. I just want to sort of caution everybody, like, come on now, Magda says, like, let's be supportive. I know you guys are a very supportive community. The first 2 community meetings that we've had, I was frankly blown away by, even the people who were disagreeing nicely. So let's try and be the way that I know you guys are, right? So I also just wanted to note that this area that we are talking about putting a dog area in is where there is sort of open play zone. It is possible that we can put other play areas in the park. This is not saying that like children are no longer included in this, but this area would be for dogs. So, there will be a degree of redesign for the Treehouse Plan if we do incorporate a dog park in it. But yes, like this flat area is where that sort of open free play zone was planned. So anyway, just wanted to point that out. So if we want to keep going with the hands up, I'll shut up and step back.
Evan? You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hi, what's the anticipated capacity that a 7,500 square foot park would be able to support for dogs? And are there plans for other areas where you're exploring for dog parks?
That is a great question about capacity. I feel like given the population of dogs and the eager dog owners in this neighborhood, I don't even want to guess what the it's going to be well used, right? So, you know, 7,500 square feet is not big, but it's what this park can sort of accommodate as far as the existing trees, the slope, all these other things that we talked about. Other planned dog areas, I know that the Franklin Park action plan is talking about a dog area as part of that. And it is not, that's not like planning, there's a capital project involved in that, but they're not in the process of like doing construction documents and doing like zoomed in design work at this point. So that's still like in the future. So this is our opportunity now at this park. And I would say, you know, given it's been unpredictable. There have been a lot of other locations that have been discussed as dog areas, as one of our, I think Omer noted, you know, other areas have been talked about and they haven't happened. So, you know, I think, well, I'd like to think that these dog plans going forward are going to be more dependable. The future is unknown, right? And so we need to focus on this park right here, right now. So. Next person.
Hannah.
Hi. So I've got here my two kids as well because they wanted to weigh in on this meeting as users of the park. I'm gonna. Do you want me to say what you wanted to say? Okay, so they are worried about losing the space, the open space where they've learned to bike and play soccer and baseball and various other sports. So I just want to articulate that for them. It is one of the only, it's one of the only places that we have found that has offered a sufficient space that's flat and not at risk with other bikes. Where they have been able to do things like learning how to bike and they like playing there. So there's a history there, I think, for a lot of the kids in the neighborhoods that I just want to speak to and make sure my kids have their voices heard on that. Just as a resident now, speaking for myself, I really understand the issue, and having grown up with dogs, appreciate dogs, love dogs, and want to make sure dogs have space where they can actually run. I look at this design and I think this is a really small area and there's a lot of like trade-offs that we're making in terms of losses for a space which is used by a lot of children and a variety of different people, a lot of different ways to enclose that space. I'm thinking about my immediate neighborhood. You know, I'm very much walking distance. I'm on Eggleston Street and walking distance to this park. Just around the corner from me, there's a vacant lot that would be a much larger space for a dog run that could be easily enclosed without any capital improvements. And it would make a perfect spot for it, and it's owned by the city. What I don't understand, what I'm curious about, I guess, is whether that space on Dalrymple Street has been considered to meet this need, because it really would be a great spot. It doesn't work for a community garden. It's got a lot of tree canopy. A lot of people are already using that as a dog park. And that spot up there is it's sort of, I think it could be a really ideal use for that dog park. And in that way, we're not kind of constraining the use of that big open area, which, anyway, I want to make that suggestion. I don't know if that's something that's been considered. And I see all the chats in reaction to what I'm saying. But I'm trying to think about this with solution orientation, realizing that obviously there's a lot of voices in this conversation. So thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I just wanted to say that one of the requirements that Boston Parks is working with right now is that we're not just looking to add a dog park to a space that is not being renovated. We're trying to do it in a holistic way so that essentially what has to happen is a park needs to be up for capital improvements. And so that we can add a dog park in if that seems to be the community desire. So the parks right now that are sort of on the docket for renovation are the ones that, if we're getting feedback on, we're considering for a dog use. I don't know exactly off the top of my head the spaces that you're talking about. I know DCR, which is the state, owns a fair amount of spaces within the city. We have zero control over those as far as trying to lean on the state to put dog facilities in those spaces. We've had no luck doing that thus far. We would love it if they would. So again, I agree with you that there are other uses that occur in this location, in this park right now. This is where kids play ball. If your kids learned to bike here, I respect that and I get that. It's a small park and we're in a small city. So these are the trade-offs that sometimes we're addressing, and we're just trying to figure out now how, what the pain point is. I don't want to put it that way because it shouldn't be painful, but I acknowledge that not everyone's gonna leave this meeting feeling like, oh, this is perfect and I have what I wanted. So again, thank you for participating, and I'm gonna shut up and step back.
Danielle?
Hi. So first of all, I just want to emphasize I'm a huge dog lover. I do think the dog could use a dog park, but I don't think that Cornwall is the Flaherty Park is a good space to put it, because the space you're thinking of putting it in is in some ways arguably the most used space by kids, and not just kids, like other people. It is a great space and kind of one of the main attractions of the park, because not many parks have that big space to like run around, and you're kind of taking that away. And if you look around, there's a bunch of places in JP that could totally be used for dog parks that people are already kind of using as dog parks just unofficially. That would be better spots.
You already want to talk?
Yeah.
Oh, me. All right. Yeah, so this has been our closest playground for 19 years. Now, obviously, I don't have a 19-year-old. I have a sixth grader and a second grader. But it's been our closest playground for 19 years. And yes, my kids learned to bike there, as did many other kids. Yes, they roller skate there. Yes, they use the playground. We use it constantly. I really would love to be a big advocate for dog parks. I think they're really, really important for the dogs, especially because we've had problems with unleashed dogs, terrorizing this one when she was little and that kind of stuff. But this space is small. This space is small for a mixed use park. What you're winding up with for a dog run is small. I know a lot of the spaces that seem really ideal are owned by DCR, and that is really unfortunate, because I wish, as you said, that they would agree to it, because I could name about 8 spaces off the top of my head that I think would be better than this one, but a lot of them are DCR owned. And yeah, I am concerned that, someone said it way up in the chat that, this is very near Washington Street and Eggleston Square, where there is, a lot of kids of color who don't have as many playgrounds, and a brand new one would be amazing. It started as a playground discussion, and all the designs were great for playgrounds. I'm just wondering how much remains when you do this to get a small dog run. I don't know. To me, the trade-off doesn't make sense, but obviously there's a lot of people who really, really want this dog run, and I get that. I'm also concerned about, there being a lot of dogs coming to the park and irresponsible owners when there are even more dogs coming to the park. If they're going to have a water feature like you were talking about, the combination of dogs and water feature and small children sounds, like there could be cleanliness issues, if there are danger issues for small children. It concerns me, this a little enclosed space, putting that all together, it concerns me. I think my 7-year-old wants to say something. I don't know what.
So as a kid, I use this space constantly. Like it used to be, I go once at 3 times every week. And this is where I learned to bike, roller skate, play tag games, soccer, and I just grew up there. So it would really be bad for that whole big like open space to just not be usable anymore. Because there are plenty of, yes, there are plenty of other spaces that we like, could bike and roller skate, but like Green Street over there has, yes, you can bike around it, but you have the hazard of water and lots of other playgrounds and things like that.
Anybody else anything you want to say?
Yes, I also want to say that it's been a really useful space to like play games and stuff, especially during the quarantine, and like just run off steam.
Yeah, this has been an incredible space during the quarantine for sure. Anyway, I appreciate this conversation is happening. I know there's a lot of opinions and a lot of people who have a lot of stake in this on both sides and many sides, and not just two sides, but with a lot of uses. And I appreciate that you're having this conversation, and I hope we can come to a solution that works for as many people as possible.
Thank you. If we can keep moving on. Thank you.
Melissa?
Oh, hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Hamill, and I have a dog, Scout, and I have a son as well. And I understand that children need places to run around, and I fully support that. I feel like that JP has a huge amount of park space and playground areas and splash pads, and that's terrific, and we support that. We're not trying to take anything away from children. What we're trying to do is include the needs of a lot of people in your community. We're your neighbors. We have needs too. And we have been denied a dog park for 20 years now. We've gone through trying to get a dog park over near Anson Road over here on the DCR parkland. That was denied after a couple of people stood up and said they didn't want it in the neighborhood. Then there was an effort to put a dog park down along the train tracks, which is also DCR land along Oakdale. And again, it was shot down at a community meeting, even though there was a lot of people who supported it for dog parks. And ironically, that's pretty much the only people that go down there right now and use that area are people walking their dogs. Dog owners have been marginalized in this city. And speaking from personal experience, we're really tired of being yelled at by people if we try to exercise our dogs, threatened by animal control for tickets because we go in the wrong area and we're doing the wrong thing. So it's really frustrating. And I no one's trying to take away anything. What we're trying to ask here is for us to share. We live in a city. We all live here. We have limited resources, and the DCR is at this point in time unavailable to us. So the city has been gracious enough to help us and at least try to incorporate a design plan that would work for everybody, not just dog owners, but children as well. I think that this is a really important feature of Jamaica Plain in itself, that we as neighbors can get along with one another and find solutions. So please, let's try to, think about this as not just us versus them, but as a community that wants to help both everybody in their community and have all the needs addressed. So, and I think that dog parks are really beneficial for children. They can get to, children can come over and learn about animals and about having healthy relationships with animals. I think it's a bonus for children. So, so I would really love it if we could really become the community that we want to be and share the resources. I think it's really important, and Jamaica Plain is the ideal place to do this. So thank you, Bea, for incorporating the design, and thank you to everyone who came out to this meeting tonight. I really think it's a wonderful dialogue that we've opened up, and I don't want anyone to feel that we are stepping on your toes. We just want to be able to all get along and have all of our needs met. So thank you very much for understanding that. I'll tag off now.
Thanks, Melissa. I also just want to clarify in case that sounded like this is a done deal. We are eager and willing and interested in hearing people's thoughts, right? And the point of tonight is to figure out if this is the right space for this use, right? So there is a lot of communication in the chat that I'm trying to keep track of as well. There's been a couple of requests for people who want to sort of toggle back and forth between the plan that was the design after the second meeting. This is going to be updated, but if we could just toggle back and forth for 1 second, Jade. This is the Treehouse Plan, and this is what was being discussed. The area that the dog park would be, the dog area would be in, is essentially the largest flat open space in the park. So the large flat open space that is, you know, being used for soccer and whatever, that would be replaced with the dog use. There are other spaces in the park that would be smaller that we would be able to design to accommodate kids and play. So this is not saying all kids are kicked out in favor of dogs. That's not what we would do here. But this is just showing you, if, you know, based on the requirements that the Parks Department has for dog spaces, this is where it would be. So I thank you all for continuing to participate, and just wanted to show that there is nuance here, right? This is not just like kids or dogs. This is just showing the space that's associated with the dog use. The dog use is more defined, right? Like there would be a fence around it, and kids can play in smaller spaces that are sort of more exciting and more varied and more interesting, you know, but the wide open flat space would be used for the dog area. So anyway, if we go back to the people with their hands up.
Rachel? Yes. Hi, am I unmuted? Yes. I'm Rachel Paxton. I live a couple blocks away, and I do walk a dog that lives right across the street from the park every weekday. So I do see people in the park a lot. I usually walk up to Franklin Park, but I walk through this park, and sometimes I walk in it with my dog. And there are people with dogs off leash all over Jamaica Plain. They're not going away, and they need a place to be. And so I definitely agree with Omar and Melissa and all the other supporters that we need to get something in somewhere as soon as possible. People all over the city moved to Jamaica Plain because of the green space, thinking this is a great place to have a house and a deck and get a dog. And then they find out that it's not really very dog friendly here, and people get on your case, and dogs need exercise. In order to be well-behaved dogs, they need to be run and exercise so that they're quiet and tired at the end of the day. I do like the way you've fit it in there, and it has that arch. I think that's a nice design element, that it's not just one big square. And while it's small, I think it's a good start, and that we should definitely go for it. And like Melissa said, we should all compromise, and there's actually plenty of space for the kids to play as well. I was hoping for a little more, you know, beautification maybe around the fence, so that it, you know, maybe some shrubs or vines or something growing up, so it didn't quite look so ugly around that fence. I think that would help a lot. But in general, I'm in favor of this. And I think the dog owners will be responsible and appreciative. And I think we have to start somewhere. And like Melissa said, there's been so much work trying to get something going, and we're in desperate need. So thank you.
Amanda? Hello. Let's see if I can see me. I can't see me, so I don't know what I look like. Hopefully it's okay. And hopefully you can hear me. I am in a butter, and I'm in the park every day, at least once, 2 to 3 times a day, because I have dogs. And because I like going in there. It's a nice space. I'm unsure about how I feel about the dog park in this location. And I haven't seen anything tonight that's helped me decide if I'm for it or against it. I was hoping to hear about maybe more plans of what the area would be like, because if we're gonna put in a spot for dogs and it's like too small, or it's gonna be overcrowded, or it's gonna have the gravel that dogs don't really like, then it's probably not a good idea. But it definitely seems like a place that can be shared. I'm concerned with the upgrading of the current flat space to be used for anything specific, because right now it can be used for anything, including dogs and scooters and whatnot. But if it's changed to something, if there are basketball courts, or it's like a really nice like flooring sort of situation, then that isn't going to allow dogs to be on there anymore. And what myself and a lot of the other dog walkers use it for is just to not be on the same tiny path all the time. Like some days dogs walk on their business walks, and then they have walks where they can lead themselves on leash. And so now there's plenty of space. You can go any which way. You can go diagonally, you can go around the fence, you can just go wherever you want. And if there's a lot of new structures and there's a lot of new specific uses, then we're losing the space that we have now for the dog owners and the dogs who are on leash and using it and trying to share it the right way, or the best way that we can. I don't know if I remember any of my other thoughts. Is there any plan for what it would be like, or is there any idea of like regulations or anything like that?
As far as the actual design of the space, this meeting is to talk about just really like the concept and where it must be according to the parameters that we have. And the eventual design of it, I'm looking at the comments here in the chat, concerning about fence heights and that kind of thing. So those details would be developed as we go, but some of that information would be developed and shared at the 4th design meeting, if this is the use that ends up happening here. I think that it's a good point that like it's currently very common for people to have their dogs in the park, and that use overlaps with kids. And while that is not legal and I can't condone it, like that is something that I have seen, and I acknowledge that takes place there. And this use of the space is, it's different. It's saying like, here's that area, and the other areas of the park. We've received a bunch of feedback having to do with the programming of the park and how a lighter touch is desired. So that would be one of the updates that we would make regardless of dog run or not. But anyway, I hope that addresses some of your questions.
Yeah, and it doesn't help me decide which way I feel about it. But are you saying that right now, the way it is used, it's not right, that like having the
technically dogs are not supposed to be off leash off of your property, right? So when you're going into the park.
Okay, I'm only talking about on leash dogs. So I'm talking about your dog's on a leash and you let it or direction you want, but not into like the playground area where there's structures and where it's like, I think it's the mulch. Those are obvious places where you shouldn't have your dog walk around. And if you add more of those obviously children places, then people aren't going to want dogs on leash to be walking diagonally across a basketball court. And like, not that we're putting in a court, but if you did put in the baskets that were part of one of the plans.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So thank you for your feedback. That is helpful. Hopefully you'll be able to come to a decision by the end of the meeting. Feel free to participate in the chat as well. So if we can keep moving on to the next person with their hand up.
Tom?
Hi, first I would like to say that like the timing of this meeting is incredibly inconvenient for a lot of families in the area anyway, at this like very dinnerly time when people are trying to wrangle children. That is very difficult and makes it hard for everyone to express perspectives on this. I live on Brookside, and much as I love dogs, and I do, my concerns are largely involving traffic and trash. There are already lots of cars flying down Cornwall Street between Amory and Washington Street who are not paying attention to children as is, let alone adults. And I'm concerned that there will be lots of traffic coming in from other neighborhoods as it becomes a destination. I'm concerned about how that can contribute to gentrification in the area and how that can push people out of the area who live here. As it becomes more and more of a destination and people are pushed out. I understand that people are going to like that. There's not a dogs versus kids issue. I think that is completely true, and I support that 1,000%. But as there is an influx, there is overcrowding, and the use of that space becomes very difficult. I know people have talked about how like bring your children elsewhere, whatever, in this meeting, but there's overcrowding at other parks too, especially as climate change gets worse. Like spray pad is a crucial thing to have in this area, and if there's like nowhere for anyone to go, if it's too overcrowded, that space cannot be used by people who live in Eggleston Square, in Brookside, and in the immediate community. And those are the people who I think suffer in that case.
Thank you, Tom. I'm gonna probably pronounce this wrong, but Kalega?
Hey, well, first of all, you did pronounce it right. Kalega is correct. I'm going to be straight to the point because I'm a straightforward person. I have a lot to say. And I think that I have a unique perspective. I'm on my second round of kids, so I have teenagers now. I have 3 grown, stepmother to those. I have had a dog business, well, a pet care business. I've taken care of every category of creature, but mostly dogs and cats, and I'm a dog trainer. And I've had that business for over 32 years in Boston. I was born in Boston, in the inner city, and I've been an RN in Boston for over 45 years. So I bring a lot of perspective to this. And I don't know if anybody has read the chats I put in there, but I enclosed at least 5 articles, I think more, that are for lay people based on scientific studies that prove that dog parks or dogs at play actually help humans release endorphins and serotonin if they're even watching dogs at play, let alone playing with them. And it is actually quite good, especially for inner city children, to be close to dogs at play if it's a safe thing, which an enclosed dog park would be. I think they should, as a mother, I think they should be near play areas for children. As a pet care owner, I just had knee surgery this year, but when I'm back to tip-top shape, I have walked 7 dogs at a time through this Flaherty Park on leash, and I've always encountered other dogs in there, no matter what time of the morning, afternoon, or evening I am there. Okay, and I live a bit away. I live near English High. This should be the first of many dog parks, since we have the most dogs for a single zip code that are registered in Boston. This should be only 1 dog park. It might be small. We need other types of dog parks in JP, but this is a great idea to have a mixed use thing. And I hope people do peruse the articles that I did send. And having grown up in the inner city, and I'm not being mean about this. I saw in the chat, somebody said something about noise from dog parks. I'm going to say something to you as an inner city person who loves living in the city. And if you think that the din from a dog park is bad for you, then I would say flip your condo or your home and move to the burbs of the countryside, because sirens are coming through here. They're working, doing work projects at all hours of the day and night. A city, it can be a noisy place. I love the noise of a city. I thrive on it, and inner city people do. I don't think a dog park has, I came from the South End in October of 2017 to JP, and I should have come here a lot sooner. I'm a JPer through and through. But in the South End, Peters Park, there's a dog park there. I've been to other dog parks. I don't think they're particularly noisy. And I think that people kind of police their dogs. So that really isn't a consideration. Also, responsible dog owners pick up, and trash should not be an issue. It's an issue where kids play too and where people walk. That's not a reason not to have a dog park. But the other thing is, people who grew up in the city and are as old as me, because I'm in my sixth decade, I'm between 60 and 70 now. God, I'm getting up there, but I can keep up with my teenagers. I will tell you this, that when I grew up in the South End and Roxbury area, when people started using parks, crime went down in those parks. It is a crime deterrent to have people walking through parks with dogs on leashes and having dogs at play. It really keeps down crime happening in parks. It happened in Blackstone Park, if you're familiar with the South End, and the park across the street, Franklin Square Park, not Franklin Park. And it happened in the Southwest Corridor. It's a deterrent. And I've been part of the Southwest Corridor. I'm a volunteer there, and I'm on PMAC, the advisory committee, since 89, 90. And I can tell you that's a big deterrent, having people with dogs around. It is so beneficial in the city. It's just a joy to watch dogs at play, even if you don't have dogs. And I'm going to say this as a dog trainer. If you don't care for dogs, or if you're worried about dogs, a well-exercised dog is a much better behaved dog. So we need more dog parks for even people who don't like dogs. It's a benefit to them too, inadvertently. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Helen?
I'll try to be succinct because I know a lot of folks want to talk. But I'm Helen Matthews. People also call me Home Fries, and I live at the Brookside, in the Brookside Artists Housing Complex, which is at the corner of Brookside and Cornwall. It's affordable housing, and unfortunately was developed without any open green space. So we have, I think, 20 plus households here in this affordable housing complex without any real green space to speak of. And so in my mind, this community here is one of the greatest stakeholders in terms of the future of this land. And I'm concerned about constraining that section of the park, constraining the use of it, partly because, you know, I understand that there's a play area for children, but there's also, you know, children also grow older, become teenagers, and want to play sports or do other types of things with the land. So that's something that's just on my mind as we're talking. And I think maybe more importantly, I'm curious about maybe having a more strategic process for gathering feedback around the use of this land, a process that maybe, you know, proactively solicits feedback through a survey or meetings or something with folks in multifamily housing complexes where there really isn't any access to land. Because the folks who I think, you know, don't have backyards or land of their own really are the greatest stakeholders in this. And I think a strategic approach to this would be really good. So I will, I'll end there. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Roberta?
Yes, thank you. So I just want to say a couple of things, and they're sort of reiteration of what's already been said. First of all, I want to say that we all have ideas of a plan or a place that could be, quote, better than what is being offered. But we have to be realistic. The fact of the matter is a lot of our nearby land is owned by DCR, and that's just a non-starter. We don't have the opportunity to work with them on using some of that space. What we have the opportunity to do is to look at this plan and to thank the city for considering finally a space where we can freely walk, have our dogs play. That's something, as Melissa has said and as Omar has said, that's something that we've been after for such a long time. So let's thank the city, take advantage, keep on with B and the other people on the staff to work with you all as you design and continue to refine the design and make a place that we can finally have our dogs without threat of being ticketed because our dogs are off leash. That's one thing. And the other thing I really want to say, and this is just from the bottom of my heart, we really need to stop looking at this as a us versus them, children versus dog dichotomy, because that's not what it is. As Melissa said, we all have needs and we need to come together and we need to each give. We need to compromise. The last thing I want to say is I'm really happy that the family who spoke, that the children who spoke, said how important the park was to them during the pandemic. Well, I also want to say that many of us, especially who are getting older and who live alone, the way that we comforted ourselves during the pandemic was to get a pet. And many of us have pets that were adopted in the last couple of years. And all we're asking is for the community and for the city to help us be responsible pet owners by allowing us a space where we can exercise our dogs, not have them be in relationship to kids, not have families be afraid because their kids might be in the same space as dogs. We want to be responsible to families as well. And having this space is the beginning of us being able to do that safely in concert, in community. And so I just really want people to think about that. You know, this was how we comforted ourselves during the pandemic, and we just want to continue being responsible to the community and to our pets. And thank you very much for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you, Roberta. Christine?
So my name is Gabe. I'm using my mom's computer, so that's why it's Christine. But I'm gonna try to make this quick. I see a lot of dogs when I go there every day at the dog park, and they like don't have a lot of space to like run around and like do everything because like there's a lot of kids there and stuff. So yeah, I really like that idea of the dog run. But then also my school, like, and I know a couple other schools use this place for recess, and like the playground is fun, but it's also fun to like play on the field. So it would be cool if like there was also like, it could be littler, but a little place for like us to like do like some like basketball or soccer or something, like, yeah. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gabe. I just want to pause for 1 second looking at the chat. There's a lot of concern and questions having to do with the volume of people that are going to flood this park if and when it is renovated, either with or without a dog run. And we cannot speak to statistically what that is going to be. Like, there's no real way to model that I'm aware of. So we can't provide data for that. But I also want to say that like, everyone is aware, I think, of the parking constraints throughout the city. I think there's a tendency, I don't think there's going to be a flood of people driving to this park. Maybe on the first day there would be, but they're not going to find parking. And so they probably won't come back. My anticipation is that everyone in the neighborhood that's within walking distance that has a dog would bring their dog. If that means that would be overwhelming the space, that could happen. But I don't know if I don't think it's realistic to anticipate that like all of a sudden parking is going to be a nightmare. I think that there's going to be a learning curve there that may be painful for a couple of weeks while people figure out parking's limited. But anyway, I just wanted to say that is what I anticipate in this project. So going back to the people who want to contribute their thoughts.
Dale?
Hello, good evening, everyone. I just want to thank everyone that's come out so far that has expressed their concerns, whether it be pros or cons to the dog park or potential dog park. I will say that the concern that I have is it's not about the dogs, not necessarily about the dog owners. It's what happens when there's an incident. Either from, if dogs are being picked up after, if there's trash, what we're having. Again, that's not any one specific person's fault. But also, like, say there's an incident. So for some reason, there's a dog that either bit another dog, bit another person, whatever have you. I think that, and I don't know what if there's a dog bite or something, is it an automatic you call 911? Like, I don't know what the process is, but I do think some education for both owners of dogs as well as folks that don't have dogs will be helpful. So we understand kind of what the rules are, what's the process, what's the way to deal about, when there is an incident. If we think this is something safe, this does move forward, is there's going to be something where owners are registering their dogs, or is there a way to contact the dog owners? And I think about, like, if you, every now and again, you see a Facebook post or Nextdoor post and something happened, each party went their separate way, but then they got home, they realized that they had a dog bite and now they don't know how to contact that owner. And I think these are things that would be helpful to help ease some of the concerns with the dog park. With dogs and kids playing so closely together. I do think there are benefits of the dogs exercising. I think there are benefits to kids being able to interact with dogs at an early age and not, grow up with the fear of dogs or what have you. But I do think that a lot of it's working on both sides, everyone working together. So there's an education that happens and we're in agreement as to what are the next steps. If there's an incident, how do we address it? How do we reach those owners? If you have a dog that's overly aggressive, what are the steps for that particular dog? Is it, 3 strikes, you're out, whatever have you. Again, I don't want to over police it, but I do think we have to have those kind of discussions before moving forward, because I think that I know for myself, that would help ease some of my concerns. But I do think there is a need. I do think that, when folks are saying, oh, this park is underutilized, whatever have you, I can tell you as a parent, there are a lot of times where I don't take my kids to certain places. Like, for example, the tennis courts by New Minton Street, that's kind of like a dog run area during certain parts of the day. If you go by the train tracks across from Stony Brook, right along outside that lower area of the park. I don't necessarily have my kids run around if I'm not there, because I don't know what's going to happen if a dog is being overly aggressive, if the owner is not paying attention. And even at Flaherty Park, same thing. I remember we used to ride our bikes there a lot of times, but sometimes we go in and we see a few dogs that are already running around off leash. We'll make it a point, you know what, we'll come back another time. So seeing a park underutilized, that might be what's happening. And you know, I don't know any toddler that's going to be able to handle their own if they get into some kind of a scrap with the dog. So those are the concerns. So thank you for everyone. I think this is great dialogue. I think we can coexist. I just think we need to have some additional discussions to understand how we move forward. So you know, you don't get into an argument with someone has their dog and the dog is off leash and the other part's not realizing, no, the dog should be within the gated section, whatever have you. Those kind of things, that's what I'm trying to avoid. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for that, Dale. I just want to say that as far as, you know, we would be installing signage on these areas if we do this. And, you know, it's really up to everybody who uses them to be good citizens and police their dogs. And there is, you know, 311 or worst horrible case scenario, 911 if something terrible were to happen. But, you know, parks is not, we would not be actively policing these spaces, but we would be posting clear, legible signs in numerous community languages, explaining what the expectations are. There would be trash disposal as well and dog bags available. That was a question as well. So if we want to keep going with hands.
Roberta.
Hi. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. I live on Cornwall Street, about 2 houses from the park. I have a dog, and we walk alongside or through the park nearly every day. And I don't really see that many off-leash dogs there, I have to say. I'm not saying that there aren't any, but by and large, they've been on leash. And I'm wondering if it is the 100-foot offset that wouldn't allow the dog park to kind of go up the hillside under the trees, because that would give a little bit more space for, you know, what's paved now for kids to ride bikes or play or whatever. And it's kind of a more dog-friendly area anyway than the gravel pit design that is in the south end. My dog does not like dog parks. I will still be walking her on leash, mostly through and, you know, off to other places. But I think that it is very important that there is a place that dogs can play with each other. People who don't have dogs, I think I'd like to reassure that dog owners are pretty vigilant about policing each other a lot of times. And I gotta say, the one time that my dog was bitten by another dog, the people were horrified, and you know, I had that Venmo for the vet bill right away. All dogs should be licensed in Boston regardless. And I would imagine that will be one of the signs posted, is that the dogs need to be licensed. I think it would be a good thing. A lot of barking it's kind of rude, the same way yelling in someone's face is rude. So it's not nice dog behavior to have like a lot of constant barking. So, I mean, I am a couple houses away and I'm not concerned about the noise from that. In fact, you know, I find children to be just as noisy, although probably at more limited times of the day. Anyway, I just want to voice my support and that I would rather have the dog area be under the trees, but I understand if it can't be because of the offsets. It's kind of hard to tell with the streets. But anyway, thank you for doing this and soliciting our opinions.
I'm probably gonna say this wrong also, but Jolivier?
Here's on your video. So my name is Mandala, and oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Mandala, and I go to the neighborhood school, and I mean, I like the idea of a dog park. It's just, I know that a bunch of people at our school are really young, like 4 or 5 years old or older. But some people are really afraid of dogs, and that's a lot of space for dogs to just run around. I mean, they need to run around. That's a lot of space, and we also want some space, and that's the playground we only go to for recess, basically. And I was just thinking, if they have all that space, we'd only be able to go to Rainbow and, I mean, well, the Rainbow Playground.
All right, can I add on here? I just want to say thank you, everyone. I love hearing everyone's, where everyone's coming from. And I totally agree that there is a need for this kind of dog park. I don't know how this works with the different parks being organized. I know Franklin Park has been going through a whole process. I am in favor of having a dog park, and I'd love to see if it would be possible to have it in Franklin Park where there's more parking, and perhaps it could even be bigger. I know that for our family and for many families, this has been a go-to place that has felt safer for kids to learn how to bike. That's, when you have little kids, it's easier to go on across a flat area with kids on bikes and scooters to an area where they can learn to bike than up and down the hill. And I get it that it might be farther for other people. We love going to Franklin Park as well. And I know there were a lot of kids at the first meeting, and a lot of families found that it wasn't, they couldn't come with it being the beginning of the school year and dinner time. But I know that a lot of kids were really excited about the treehouse, and it sounds like maybe that wouldn't be able to happen. I just wanted to hear about that if this happens, and also keeping at least some amount of space open is what we would request. Thank you.
Thank you. We would still be incorporating play equipment and a treehouse element. It's just a matter of the wide, flat, open space being used differently. I also wanted to request that if we could shift the slide so that we have the survey up so that people can scan that. And I realize we're at 7:15 right now, and we've got 15 more minutes. We have 68 participants, which is great. And I really appreciate the candor that everyone is bringing. You guys are sharing opinions. They're not always easy ones. You guys are being supportive, and I really, really want to thank you for that. So it makes my job as a project manager a little bit more easy. But yeah, so I think there's still a couple of hands up. There's still questions people have. So I'm gonna step back again.
Madeline?
Hi, this is Zach. We're kind of rotating through the meeting here because, I honestly, there probably is no good time for a public meeting for working parents with young kids. I was thinking, like, when would it be a good time for a meeting? I'm like, 11 p.m. So I think one thing that I really like what Helen said about flexible space, the need for like a flat, flexible space, that's not a parking lot. And, it's increasingly likely that parking lots are not going to be as prevalent, you know, in the future. You know, parking lots are getting developed on and turned into other things. So it's only safe when they're empty, which is not super often. But I guess, you know, we have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and our 3-year-old, his favorite place to ride his balance bike used to be Franklin Park, until we had a really, really horrifying close call with some dirt bikes that, you know, just missed us. And he was, you know, he hit the deck and he was crying, and it was really traumatic for him. And he doesn't want to ride up there anymore, which is awful, because we walk through Franklin Park getting from school in Eggleston Square every day, or most of the time. And just in general, a safe place to do kind of any kind of roller activity is so important, because we've lived in Eggleston area for like 8 years, and, you know, maybe our perspectives change because we have young kids now, but the aggressive driving and the road rage, and particularly right in Eggleston Square, you know, I know this is a little bit further away, the park, but it's, you know, it's 2 blocks from us, and it's just gotten so much worse in the past couple of years. And our kids are so good about walking and stopping at each intersection. They do such a good job of navigating this neighborhood safely. But they just need a place, you know, that's like one flexible place that, and I know there's playgrounds, but there's something that's really helpful about it, just an open flat space. Anyways, yeah, I think it'd be great if you could pass along the need for a dog park to your colleagues who are working on the Franklin Park upgrades and redesigns, because I know that's underway as well. And that would be a huge missed opportunity not to include something for dogs to be off leash officially in Franklin Park. Yeah, I hate to pit it against it. Having a safe place to ride is like really top of mind since we had that incident. And, you know, even before that, I was never really someone who was upset about dirt bikes or the loud music parties or things that happen in Franklin Park. It never really bothered me until we had that incident, you know? That's it from me, I believe. Oh, last thing is one last plug. I think it's probably not likely at this point, but one last plug for public restrooms. We don't have enough public restrooms in the neighborhood or in Boston. And I know it was mentioned at a previous public meeting, and probably way over budget and not something that's doable here, but just keep plugging away at that need.
Magda?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for taking my comment/question. I think we've heard all sides of all arguments tonight for why it could be a shared space for children and dogs and even adults, I suppose, or not. But I'm wondering, it's a very small park. I mean, I just don't know if if Parks Department has ever seen a park this size having such similar shared use. I'm assuming JP is not the only neighborhood in Boston that has plans to have the parks being used by children and dogs. Have you seen this happen somewhere else, and how did it work out? Like, do you have any data to provide on this? And I also just wanted to reiterate my point from earlier that on this side of the tracks in Eggleston Square, Brookside, historically a Black Latinx neighborhood, our playgrounds up here are not great. We don't have a whole lot, and it just feels like this is a neighborhood pocket park and a great opportunity to provide better space for children, particularly because we have so many public schools around here that now uses this park for recess. So I just really want us to, for this particular location, prioritize the needs of the children. I understand the need for a dog park, and JP is a a neighborhood that has a lot of dogs, and I hear this, but I really do believe that Franklin Park plans and just the amount of open space and nature available there may be better, in my opinion, for dogs. Yeah, I just want to really know if there's anything similar somewhere else in Boston that you've seen actually worked, and if there was any increase of reports of accidents. I mean, I see a lot of people say dogs are great for children, vice versa. I don't know that all dogs are properly trained or service dogs. Anyways, so just these are my thoughts on the issue. Thank you.
There are a number of other parks where there are spaces for people as well as dogs. There's Downer is an example where the dog area is quite small, smaller than we like. And that part of it gets sort of overrun, but you know, it's all of this is a work in progress, and we're always trying to improve on the last thing that we've done. You know, that's where we're getting our numbers about, you know, the 100-foot offset is to reduce smells from, you know, what people who live directly adjacent to it feel like 100 feet that seems like a good distance. 10,000 feet is intended to reduce the interactions, too many dogs running into each other, conflict there, overuse of the ground plane. You know, all of these things are based on our experience, and we don't have a ton of experience. So we are always trying to refine and improve. So, you know, Downer is a decent example. I know that, you know, there's a South End, there's a park where there's some play equipment as well as the dog space. So they do coexist. And I think, you know, if you have an effective fence that is not directly abutting a children's playground, you know, play space, like we're not going to put the play equipment directly adjacent to the dog area. So you don't want little kids sticking their fingers through the fence. You know, we're going to try our best to separate these things while also acknowledging that this is a small park and that interactions are going to occur. People walking to the dog park with their dog on a leash may cross paths with kids who may be concerned about dogs. It's my hope that, you know, that's a beneficial interaction. But anyway, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, that does. I just wanted to add that there has been a lot of change happening on Eggleston Square with the new bus lane, increased traffic. Eggleston Square Neighborhood Association has worked very closely with BTD and William Moose, who's one of the people we worked with when they were implemented the bus lane. So I'm just here to say that parking has been an issue, and I find it personally very hard to believe that if we have a dog park, the only dog park in the whole neighborhood of JP, which I hear we have a lot of dogs in JP, I find it hard to believe that parking and it just even like this park, I think will definitely be overwhelmed. So this is just my opinion, but I do think dogs need to have more open space or dedicated parks with parking. But I'm not convinced this location is the right size and appropriate for it. However, I think I'll just look for some more information about the other parks you mentioned, and maybe it could work. I don't know. So thank you anyways.
All right, we have, it's 7:26 right now, and there are, I think, 4 people with hands raised. So we're going to have these last people, no one else at this point. Again, this has been great. If you guys could keep your comments short so that we can try and fit everyone in before the end of the meeting.
Zoe?
Hi, thanks. I'll be super quick. I just wanted to reiterate a few points. One is that we're frankly desperate for an option. People on this call have been working on this issue for literally decades, and we've already said that like the city and the DCR have not been cooperating with finding options for off-leash dog parks. And so like for everybody saying like, can we do it in another location? We've been trying, and frankly, we've been trying for decades, and we've been trying for every possible option. So I think that the concerns that everybody has been talking about against dog parks, like they don't go away if we don't get this dog park. They're frankly like extended and continue because dogs don't have a safe place to go. There are dogs in JP. And so all of the concerns actually, in my opinion, are supporting evidence for including a dog park, because people will find places to walk their dogs off leash if there is not a fenced-in dog park. So I think all of the concerns are valid, but are actually in support of including this. And I would also say that like there are people in this call and not in this call who have the data, have the research, have been in dozens of conversations with the city. And so I don't want to say that not all opinions are created equal, but I would say that there are certain points of feedback that maybe have more experience or are more researched than others, and that I think the city would benefit from figuring out who are the folks who are really looking into the benefits and the research behind this. Those people exist, and they've been working on this for decades. So yeah, I guess lastly, like this wouldn't be the first dog park to ever exist. Like they are all over the country and they work. And so I don't think the question is like, should dog parks be a thing in the country? I think it's like, is there a need in Jamaica Plain? Yes, there is. It's the highest population of dogs in the city, and we have literally 0 dog parks. The rest of the uses proposed for this particular space all have alternatives. Dog parks have 0 alternatives. The concerns that have been voiced are not going away if this space isn't included with a dog park. They're just getting exacerbated. So I think literally everything I've heard like supports the absolute desperation for this to be included. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. So we've got 3 more people. If you guys can keep your comments to like 30 seconds, that would be awesome. Thanks.
Jessica.
Hi, my name is Jessica and I live on Brookside, just about a block down from the Flaherty Park. And I just want to make an observation that I've seen a lot of calls from people here to take dogs to other parks in the face of this proposal to add a dog park at Flaherty. But I don't see anyone asking for parents to take their kids elsewhere, right? And I think what's being sought by at least by us dog owners, but also what's being proposed by the city, is to find a way to enhance what's already a mixed use park, right? So this isn't intended to be a mutually exclusive conversation where it's enhanced both for kid or for dog use, but in a way like to strike a balance between the two that's already existing and to make it actually better for everybody. And I also note that there's already a number of flat flexible spaces, which is a term that's been used throughout this conversation for kids all across JP. And all we're asking for here is to find a way to strike a balance between supporting the use for kids and the needs of the dog owners that are in this community. And to do that in a way that's safe and dedicated, a sort of safe and dedicated space for dogs to exist off leash, rather than what's happening today, which is a lot of off leash use in what is supposed to be kid friendly areas. So I believe that Flaherty Park is actually the best space for an initial dog park in JP. And I really encourage the city to consider its use for that purpose.
Thank you. Omar?
Thank you. I already spoke. I just want to briefly say one other point is that it's a question and concern as to the length of the process here. I'm worried that this process, now that it's more contentious with the dog park, is going to be run really long and potentially not come to fruition because of this. B, can you comment on what the design plan moving forward from this point will be to actually build and complete this project? Thank you.
Yep, so we shared the schedule a little bit earlier in the meeting, and if we could flick back to that just for 1 sec, we are going to be having the 4th community meeting in November. That's the goal. And so this, you know, I would say that it's probably impacted the schedule by a few months just to have these internal conversations and sort of further analysis. Adding another meeting, you know, adds time for sure. But this does not mean that this project is not going to happen. We have secured funding. We have lots of interested parties. So don't worry about that. I appreciate your concern though.
Thank you. And last but not least, Tom.
Yeah, I live in subsidized housing that's catty corner from Flaherty Park. And this past summer, I just want to say that we all had to dig into our reserve funds and to our personal pockets to buy a new dumpster because there was a giant petrified poop pile in our trash area because people walking through this area were just throwing their poop into our house. That costs a lot of money for a lot of people who live in subsidized housing. And I'm really concerned that having a park there is going to make that problem a whole lot worse. And that for people who really are already struggling to make ends meet. Also, I want to add that there are a whole lot of comments in the chat of people telling people with kids to get lost and go somewhere else. So please do not use that emotional argument in this situation. Thank you very much and good night.
All right, thank you everybody for participating in this. This has been incredibly helpful, lots of different perspectives. Everybody who put things in the chat, we're going to be downloading the chat and reading it more closely. We're going to be reviewing the recording as well. And please share the survey with everybody that you know. It's a great opportunity for people to provide their data. If you guys want to do the survey as well. It's been very helpful hearing the nuance and opinions tonight. I think this has given us some good direction for the design, no matter what is included. But anyway, we will be in touch. Thank you all for participating, and I hope you have a wonderful night.